Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah. How's everybody doing? We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us all with proper guidance. Allahumma ameen. It was sent to me a video of students praying inside of a school a couple of weeks ago, as it appears, in Florida, and the teacher interrupting their prayer and even stepping on the students' hands is very disturbing. I'm going to play that, and then after that, I'm going to give a response to that situation. And after that, I'm going to follow up on the coverage that was given, the commentary, the discussion that was had on the Young Turks podcast by Cenk and Anna. So firstly, here is the video. This is a disturbing video. Honestly, is very angering, very troubling. But this really gives and sheds light to the challenges that many of our Muslim youth have in public schools and in charter schools. And so here is the video. Again, it may bother you, but we're going to play it, inshallah.
In a pretty horrendous display of blatant Islamophobia, a Florida teacher was caught on camera vilifying her Muslim students as they were praying. Now, she also used some physical violence against them, which I'll get to in just a moment. But before I get to those details, here's some of the footage.
So now that you guys saw the video, right, again, it's very troubling. There's some things that I want to point out about the youth praying there. First and foremost, I want to recognize them and say, Alhamdulillah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you, and may Allah give you steadfastness and patience. I'm always very honored to be with the youth. I'm a imam here in Denver, Colorado, who has been very active with the youth for over a decade. And when I see these types of situations happen, which are not actually that rare, I'm always very proud of our youth because they're really on the forefront. They're on the front line. And they are, keeping steadfast, and they are praying and, mashallah, praying together in Jamaah, praying and giving importance to the prayer, and praying even despite the fact that people were actively trying to stop you from praying. And praying in Jamaah, getting together as Muslim youth. This is something that I strongly recommend. And if you are a youth who's watching this, then I recommend that you get together with your Muslim classmates and you guys come together and find a program and a way that you can establish prayer time so that at least you can pray Dhuhr and Salat al-Asr, inshallah, inside of the school that you attend. I also want to bring up this whole point here because apparently this happened at a charter school, right? Some people have this idea that public schools and charter schools are different. Public schools and charter schools are not different. They're both federally funded, and they both carry along with that the same agenda. And yes, I am calling it an agenda. Now, let's get into some of the commentary of Anna and Cenk and discuss some of their comments following up from this video.
Now, this took place at Franklin Academy, which is a charter school in Broward County and in Palm Beach, Florida. The teacher has since been fired. The video was shared on TikTok and has since gone viral, which resulted in the teacher being fired. The school said this in a statement: while we do not discuss personnel matters, we can share that the teacher in question is no longer a member of the Franklin Academy staff, which is well deserved considering the way she treated those students. Now, and by the way, let me just be clear about something. So whether we're talking about Muslim students, Christian students, Jewish students, If the students themselves decide they need to pray for whatever reason on campus and it's not being pushed on them by educators or forced upon them by educators, they should have the right to do that, right? Now, the school, especially if it's receiving any type of government funding, is not supposed to establish a religion, right? So the educators are not supposed to force a religion onto the students. That's an important distinction to make. But if the students on their own, because they're students of faith, decide they want to pray on campus, they have every right to do so. And it doesn't matter what their religion is. I want to be clear about that. This just happens to be about Muslim students.
So again, here we see that charter schools and public schools are supposed to not establish any religion according to what they're saying, right? And this is in fact establishing a religion. And let's look at the definition of what is a religion, okay? The definition of a religion is a pursuit or a interest, okay, to which someone ascribes supreme importance to, okay? So it is a pursuit or an interest to which someone ascribes supreme importance to, saying that this is more important than that. This is the most important thing. And so we see through our public school system, through our education system in America, that for sure there are religions that are being established. Capitalism is being established. Liberalism is being established. Secularism is being established. You know, gender studies is being established and everything that comes along with that. Gender equality is being established and everything that comes along with that. And democracy in general is being established. And these are all technically, by this definition, religions. Okay, so these are religions. All of these religions are in fact being spoon-fed to your children every day, day in and day out, from kindergarten, from pre-K, all the way up through, as long as you have them in the public school system, or if you have them in a charter school system. And in reality, these institutions that are spoon feeding these religions, these religious ideas, these, as it's stated, these specific points, these interests, right? These pursuits and these interests that are being spoon fed for your children every single day, these are in fact religions, and the institutions that you're sending your children to are getting the better part of the day to teach them and show them and convince them of their arguments and against Islam ultimately.
Also, the 5 daily Islamic prayers are very sacred for Muslims. I don't know if you know anything about this. I'm not educated on it. So
here at this point, I want to point out that major media outlets still being very highly uneducated in the basics of Islam shows you the obvious agenda that the media system has towards Islam. And this is something that we have to be very clear about. It doesn't take much to know the basics about Islam, to know about our prayers, to know about these basic tenets, our belief, what is the actual belief of a Muslim. So this is really, really important.
And once started, should not be disrupted by others or those praying themselves. Now, do you want to jump in on that? Because I want to understand that a little better.
Sure. So look, I grew up Muslim. I didn't have a great experience with, well, that's actually not true. I had a perfectly great experience with the religion, except for the part you just saw, which I'll explain in a second.
Now I want to talk a little bit about Jank, his comment that he made, that he, quote, had a perfectly great experience with the religion, right? Except for prayer, right? Except for prayer. So he's pointing out prayer as being something that he found very troublesome about Islam. To be honest with you, he's talking about it being very hard on the knees and difficult for him. Well, the National Library of Medicine, and I'm going to share these links inside of the description here to this video. The National Library of Medicine disagrees 100% with this notion. Okay, so that's something I wanted to point out. Here at this point, Cenk says that he had a perfectly great experience with the religion, except for the prayer because it was hard on his knees. Okay, he makes this claim, but I want to be very clear. If you look at the National Library of Medicine, then you will find a very unbiased opinion, or actually not opinion, very unbiased studies, academic papers that establish otherwise, that prayer is extremely healthy for your mental well-being, your neuromuscular well-being, your nervous system, even your joints and your breathing. So this is something to counter that statement. And I would like to invite Cenk to continue on the path, come back into the fold of Islam, and get regular about the prayers, and he will find a lot of these benefits, inshallah.
I left the religion just mainly because I realized later in life, I don't think it's true. And so I don't think any of the religions are true. That's my personal opinion.
Now I want to talk a little bit about Cenk's assertion that he doesn't believe that Islam is true. Okay, he doesn't believe that Islam is true. So Cenk, I want to ask a very simple question to you. Very simple question, okay? How does the fact that we were created by a creator who is unique in his actions, for example, he gives life, he takes life, he provides, okay? He forgives sins, and who also has unique names and qualities that help us know more about him. For example, he's the all-hearing, he is the all-seeing, and so we call on him by these names when we want to have interactions with him, because he is unique in these qualities and these attributes. That because he has these specific attributes and these specific actions, then there's unique things that we do for him that we only do for him. You know, what part of that fact do you find a challenge to you? I don't think that you would find any challenge to that, and that is Islam. That is Islam. Okay, so again, I want to invite the brother Cenk. I would like to invite you to Islam, to come back to the fold of Islam, and I will personally spend time to sit with you and go over the prayer and talk about my own experience with prayer, as I also converted to Islam and came to Islam when I was around 18 years old.
Okay, now the great thing about Islam is it's arguably the least racist religion. Now, if you grew up in America, you think, oh, there's no way, man. I tell every movie I see, it's got these guys, they're terrorists, right? Every news story, terrorists. What do you mean? No, guys, I'm not telling you, oh, it's a religion of peace. Every religion has peaceful parts, every religion has awful parts, right? But no, in Islam, one of the key pillars is we're all the same. It doesn't matter if you're German, Indonesian, African, it doesn't matter at all as long as you come to God. Okay, so that's one of the great parts of Islam. One of the bad parts of Islam is it's terrible on the knees.
Again, Cenk, brother, you were mentioning that the prayer is hard on the knees. Well, I'd like to say that elderly Muslims disagree wholeheartedly. You know, we have 80, 90-year-old Muslims who come to all 5 daily prayers. They come to the mosque every day, and they, because of their prayer, have increased mobility that some of their other age mates do not experience and have the comfort of being able to have that flexibility at their age. So elderly Muslims, they're not agreeing with you. Likewise, these athletes, like the Moroccan soccer team that you're going to mention, the Moroccan soccer team that you mentioned here inside of this this clip, the Moroccan soccer team, when they get into sujood and they get in and they pray, these guys are soccer players that are running up and down a soccer field. You know, if prayer was hard on their knees, do you think they would be where they were in the World Cup? I don't think so. So Muslim athletes of all different sports would actually disagree with you. You can talk to our NBA athletes. You could talk to our NFL athletes. You could talk to our boxing athletes. You could talk to our MMA athletes. You can talk to our athletes in soccer and all other different sports, cricket or whatever it is that you want to go to, and you'll find that there are so many benefits that our athletes experience, including increased mobility, decreased injury, because they are more flexible, because they put their body in positions that other athletes just simply don't.
Hey, and it asks you to pray 5 different times a day, including around sunrise.
It's too much effort.
It is. It was for me. I'm too lazy.
Here, I just want to, bring up a point that he's making here, right? What success comes with a lack of commitment? I'm sure that Cenk did not become successful and rise to the level that he did by being lazy. As a matter of fact, if you look at and you just, research a little bit about him, you'll find out that he's a very dedicated, very motivated, very active individual. And this is what helped lead him up to his success. So again, how are you going to rise to this level? Likewise, Anna, I don't believe that she got to the level where she was at, where she is now, by being lazy, right? So having commitment and being dedicated, these are things that people admire. Likewise, I'm sure that if she or he hears about an individual who wakes up and runs every day, which is in fact harder on the knees than prayer ever will be, that they will admire that. So this is just a point I want to make here about being dedicated, being driven. And again, Islam helps you develop this, which helps develop your character. And that's why we have so many really successful people who find more success in Islam or will attribute their success to their Islam.
Okay, and so I remember even when I became the most religious, which is they're never fundamentalist, but I was as observant as I could be. And that was when I was about 20 years old. I was in college and I'd taken this great introduction to Islam class and it kind of got me into it.
Here, I just want to bring this out. Believe it or not, a 20-year-old Muslim going to an intro to Islam class and learning about Islam that way at the age of 20 is actually not as uncommon as you may think it is. Very many of our youth do not have a proper education about Islam. And parents, I just want to really encourage you and insist that you give your children a proper Islamic education. Prioritize teaching them Islam. Prioritize teaching them Islam, teaching them the religion, teaching them the truth. Give them the time that they will require to have a solid foundation, that they understand their faith so that they can go out into the world that way. Don't wait until it is later on in life for them to all of a sudden prioritize this, right? We have to take our responsibility as parents, and this is one of the reasons why we should be bringing our children to the mosque, why we should be taking them to schools, even if it's a weekend school, and ultimately we should be putting them inside of Islamic schools.
But even then I was like, 5 times a day? Okay, so I cheated and I would pray 5 times once a day.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Here he said that he cheated, but unfortunately, there's no cheat code in Islam.
And when you go to mosque and you have to kneel down and do that whole thing, oh my God,
No.
Your knees are killing you.
No, I got to call you out even more. He cheated in other ways as well. So he wasn't drinking alcohol because that was forbidden, right, based on the religion. True. But he couldn't give up the pork.
No, when I was most religious, I even gave up pork.
Oh.
Look at that. That's how devout I was.
I thought you were picking and choosing. But at some point, you started eating the pork again.
Of course.
But you gave yourself credit because you weren't doing the drinking, if I remember it correctly.
there was a moment where that happened too, because when you're religious, you cheat all the time, because no one can actually follow the entire text. If you did, you'd do some terrible things.
And be miserable, you'd be miserable.
The comment that he makes here about being religious, that if you're religious, you cheat all the time, no. If you're religious, it does not necessitate that you cheat all the time. However, you are going to make mistakes all the time. That's guaranteed. We know that as Muslims, that all of the children of Adam are constantly making mistakes, but the best of them are the ones who often return in repentance and forgiveness and seek forgiveness from their Lord.
But they're in the middle of something that is unquestionably sacred, right? And I like that they touched their head to the ground as a sign of humility in that prayer. It said, I don't like the knees part, as I told you. But of course you can't interrupt there, and they can't stop as they're in the middle of that prayer.
Here, we're talking about the knees again, okay? I just want to emphasize again that it gets much easier and much better over time, and that requires you to be regular in prayer, to sit properly and do your best. Your body will adjust. Your body is going to get its flexibility back that it had when you were a younger child. You know, I remember when I started praying, I would be very uncomfortable and I could not properly sit down. I could not even completely sit down onto the ground, let alone, you know, I was sweating and shaking sometimes because of my body not being used to being in these positions. But alhamdulillah, with me praying regularly, it got so much easier to the point that my body loves the positions that I am in when I pray, that I feel physically better while I pray. This is not just a spiritual thing. I mean, literally, my body physically feels better after stretching and going into those positions. And this is from some of the benefits of praying. But it's not the goal. Let's just be clear about that. It's not the goal of praying.
By the way, the Moroccan players in the World Cup, after they win and they go and they kneel down and pray like that, I think it's a beautiful moment for the 1.6 billion Muslims in the world saying, hey, we're here and we're representing you guys. So as they're doing this thing, these lovely, wonderful kids, and by the way, always apply the same standard no matter what the religion is. So I wouldn't want religion taught in schools. I don't want Christianity or Islam taught in schools. But if there were Christians that had opened up their Bible in a school, I would say, hey, we shouldn't teach that religion or any religion in school. But I wouldn't go knock the Bible out of their hand.
Here, bring out the major point that if you have a school that's not supposed to have any religion taught, then there is no specific interest, okay, that is supposed to be promoted or pushed or given supreme importance. If you have that in your school, you are pushing religion in your school, no matter what you want to call it.
I reflect back on some of our coverage of similar stories in the past, or some of the ways that we've talked about religion, and I think I'm just going to speak for myself. Maybe I could have done a better job in differentiating between fundamentalist religion and the vast majority of religious people in this country who are lovely people who don't force their religion onto other people.
Here, this is a strange comment that Anna makes, that this difference between a fundamentalist, right? A fundamentalist and the vast majority of quote unquote religious people who don't push their religion down the throats of people. This is implying that fundamentalist people are trying to push their religion down people's throats. This is not accurate. As a matter of fact, the opposite is accurate, okay? People who are denying religion, even people who are quote unquote atheists, if you look at the secularization and the liberalization of the media, then you'll find that in reality, the people pushing the agendas and the people pushing their religion down the throats of people are those people accusing the fundamentalists who have a said identified religion that they're willing to identify, that they're saying that they are the ones who are the fundamentalists shoving down the religion down people's throats. But no, it's the opposite. You
guys get the point. But the other thing is, I do think that living in a country that protects people's right to have a faith, to believe in a religion, to practice their religion is important, right? I don't believe in religion. I'm an atheist. I've been clear about that. But I still think it's important to protect religious liberty. And in this case, I would not like if the educators, if the principal, if the administrators were forcing a particular religion onto the student body.
Here, to be very clear, here towards the end, they are all trying to push religion in all schools, all public schools. They are trying to push a religion. They are trying to push an agenda. They are very clear about that, but they're not calling it religion. They're calling it democracy. They're calling it gender studies. They're calling it gender equality. They're calling it whatever name or flavor that they put on it. At the end of the day, it is a religious, by definition, movement, an agenda that they're pushing.
But that is not what happened here. You have Muslim students praying because they believe in their religion, and their religion requires them to pray 5 times a day.
At the end, I'd like to say, may Allah guide Cenk and Anna and all of us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to the truth and guide us to that which is correct. Again, there's nothing wrong with the fact that you're created by a creator who is unique, who has unique actions that only he has. And we only call him him because he's informed us that he's him. And he has unique qualities and attributes and names. And because of that, there's things that we do for him that we don't do for anything else. And this is Islam. The same analogy for your parents. Because your parents are uniquely who they are, there's things that you will do for them that you will only do for them. And to Allah is the highest example. I'd like to invite anybody who is not a Muslim viewing this to Islam, and anybody who is a Muslim who is struggling with the tenets, who is struggling to learn, please reach out to me, contact me. We can have a conversation. I'm here available for the non-Muslims. I'm available for the Muslims. And for those of you who found benefit in this, if you would please like, subscribe, and share this content, and try to take in the good and the truth that is in this and discuss this with others. Spread this, because this is the truth and this is what deserves to be given attention. Anything that I said is correct is from Allah and His Messenger, and anything that I said is incorrect is from myself or shaitan, and Allah and His Messenger are free from it. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum.